the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision Bill Fisher. There's soon to be Wonder Woman, Vicki Fisher. Our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Scripchuk. And our Batman, master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical. Our mild-mannered soon-to-be billionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission? To fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them, and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes in Training Podcast. I'm going to be one of the hosts for this episode. My name is Bill. Who else is hosting?
I'm Vicki.
And I'm Jennifer.
You are. I think Vicki's microphone just went out and she's using a computer, so she sounds a little funny, or it's my headphones. Not quite sure. Anyway, we have a guest. We have a guest who I first met at my first HPDE2 event with NASA Great Lakes. And I'm sad to say that he accelerated way past me and is now done with HPDE4, which I'm just about to start. And he's already done comp school and he's already done racing. And I feel like such a slacker. But anyway, he's got a great Mazda Miata, which I've been jealous of the entire time. And I thought it was time to have him onto the podcast and give a discussion of how things have gone with his racing and how everything's going. So with that, we have Ryan Power joining the podcast. Welcome, Ryan.
Thanks, Bill. I appreciate you guys having me on.
No worries. No worries.
So just beyond the intro that Bill just given you, could you just give you a brief introduction of who you are to our listeners that may not be familiar with you?
Yeah, not a problem. I'm sure it's probably every listener because no one really knows me around this type of event or these types of organizations yet. I'm still very new to all of this. But my name is Ryan Power. I live up in Buffalo, New York, and I got into racing 2 years ago. From this weekend, actually, will be my 2 years into the sport. Started at pit race with NASA in 2019. A little bit about me personally. I manage a small family-owned medical supply company up here in Buffalo. So that takes up my work life. Other than that, married, 2 kids, and just always looking to keep myself busy, and a lot of late nights in barns. Been working on cars for years and decided this was the next logical step to just have a little more.
Mm-hmm. You're muted, Jen.
But it's a great question. That was the best question ever.
I'm sorry.
It was eloquent. I'm sorry they missed it.
Right?
I know.
So Ryan, tell us what type of racing experience and or training have you had? Maybe talk about the high performance driving.
Yeah, I started out with NASA Great Lakes 2 years ago, like I said, at pit race, and I signed up for HPDE1 and had no idea what to do. Got into that organization and was able to I acquired my car a little late in the year, so I was only able to do 2 events in 2019. So I didn't really make a whole lot of progress, but then last year in 2020, even though everyone got a late start with COVID, I set out with the goal to at least get to DE4 by the end of the year so I could be ready for comp school here in the 21 season at the very beginning to actually, I knew quite early on that I wanted to get into the wheel-to-wheel racing and even go further than where I am right now. So that was my end path that I plotted for me in the short term. And now that I'm there and trying to get as much experience as I can and figure out what my long-term path from here is.
Okay.
So just in case people aren't aware, I mean, I've loved your car since you first got it, but would you care to share with the audience what car you're using typically?
Yeah, I've done 95% of my events in the car that I bought specifically for high performance driving. It was a 2019 Mazda Miata, the ND2 version. It was just happenstance that the year that I got into racing was the year that Mazda retweaked them to the ND2 for the a little bit better engine power and RPM range. It just happened coincidentally. And my whole thought process there was, I've had high horsepower cars. I've had, expensive cars, fast cars. It was, what car can I bring to the track that is going to be a dedicated purpose track car that I don't have to worry about driving at home, and I can really start pushing, but also I will reach my limits and the car's limits about at the same time. So the car's not band-aiding bad driving. In an essence. So I didn't really want to show up in a Corvette my first day and just learn to really just hit the throttle out of the straights. I wanted a car that I knew I had to manage well in order to be well in the car. So that was the main objective for why I picked that car.
So you were mentioning about trying to figure out where you want to go now that you have your comp license and you're working on your wheel-to-wheel. Do you have any thoughts more so in that direction? Any of the bucket lists that you'd like to speak about?
If it was a complete pipe dream and I could have everything that I want, I would love to be able to have the opportunity to be on a seat for the IMSA Mazda Cup car in a couple of years.
The global spec Miatas?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Is yours technically that, or did you do a lot of that work yourself, or because yours is far from stock?
It's not exactly a cup car. I did, I worked with a lot of the guys where before it was Long Road Racing, and then Fliss Performance acquired them last year. And I've been down to Fliss Performance there in Daytona, and I visit the shop a lot of times just because they're the ones with the most knowledge for this car. So any friends that I can make that can help me learn my car, the better. So I've learned a lot from them and what I can and what I can't do. But unfortunately, because I am in the NASA region, if I went and I bought a cup car specifically, they would automatically class it in ST3 because it comes with a sequential transmission nowadays. It comes with shocks that take points and a lot of other stuff that just don't class well. And it just doesn't have the horsepower to be competitive in ST3 is what I found. So I built mine specifically for ST5 racing.
Well, with you driving it, it's definitely fast enough for ST5. So I've been passed by you with every single car I've ever been with. So it's always fun to wave as you go by. Have fun.
So Ryan, if you're at a race, what are each of your positions? Like what's your position? Do you just drive, or you do mechanical work, or if there's other people there with you,
right,
what do they do?
Right now, I'm a one-man show, and I've got a pretty unique setup that sometimes is less work for me, and sometimes that's more work for me. If anyone's seen me run into the racing events, I actually load my car in a toy hauler fifth wheel camper. Mm-hmm. So it's always fun loading, unloading, finding out where to put tools, put parts, and just kind of work it myself. It's just when I got into racing, I already had this setup, so I just made it dual purpose. I do need to look into getting a dedicated race trailer just because I'm running out of space for tools and spares and other things that I need. But right now it is me running the entire operation.
Okay.
I don't think it's very uncommon out there when you're doing that particular style of racing that we see. What is it, like a lightning racing? Is it lightning track?
He would be in lightning group, but he where he's at, there tends to be more than just a toy hauler and a car in it.
Yeah.
So, the toy hauler is kind of like what we had at Portland. So you can imagine there's not a whole lot more space once you put a car inside one of those. So, but you seem to get it done, and I think as you're graduated out of HPDEs and gone on to wheel to wheel, I think the demands are probably justified in getting some type of trailer just for everything you need and everything you might need, because you never. I mean, if somebody could tell you what would break, then you'd be fine. You'd have tons of room, but you kind of have to throw a blanket over everything and essentially bring a separate car in pieces the way we're going. So I agree. I think the car trailer would be good for that. So Ryan, I know you had a couple races already this year. I think at least 2 that I've been to, and maybe you got a couple more under your belt. What do you have upcoming? Do you have anything set for the rest of the year?
Yeah, my schedule for the rest of the year, I will be at Pit Race with NASA Great Lakes this weekend. Then I am taking a small break from actually participating, but I will be crewing with a team at the beginning of August down in Road Atlanta. Just my whole going into the racing, it's not only getting as much experience as I can as being a driver, but I put myself out there to either it's shops or teams or like larger organizations than me. Then I just reached out to them. I was like, hey, can I volunteer? Can I spend the weekend with you guys just to see how the much larger operations work? How do they stay organized? How do they detail, or how do they lay out tasks? Who's responsible for what? Just to kind of see how they function. So I've dedicated a little bit of time at the beginning of August for that. Mm-hmm. Then I will be doing Mid-Ohio at the end of August with NASA Great Lakes. And then I will be looking to do Autobahn and NCM in October with Great Lakes as well.
Well, we'll be at all those Great Lake events except for NCM. So you'll be sick of us by the end of this year already. Well, more sick of us, I guess.
So Ryan, when you're racing, are there words you live by for your personal journey?
In my family, we do have kind of a little saying that, you know, it was kind of started up with my brother years ago. He was really one of those, like, straight to it. You get up every day, and it was kind of, you know, you wake up every day and try to figure out, you know, what needs to be done, and you kind of just do it is kind of how we live. So you just, every single morning you organize your day, and really you just go with no excuses, get what you got to get done.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's a good plan. It's a good plan. I do like the attending races and learning from other teams. We had planned on doing a little bit of that this year, but the team we were working with, they had some issues, so they're not racing as much as possible. Though we may get one more race in to go view and see how the better half lives. So that's a good plan, though. I like it. Always tough to learn.
I know.
So we're committed to getting people interested in performance driving or racing. Do you have any thoughts for any newbies to come and out and race and get off the sofa? And do you have any words of wisdom?
It's going to, I think, depend highly on the type of person and what motivates them and why they've decided to do it. But the one thing that I kind of see new drivers getting into performance driving, I see a lot of the times that they're not really, sometimes they get too focused on lap times. Everyone always, when you go to the track, all everyone talks about is lap times. Whether you're in DE1, DE2, DE3, everyone's, what lap time were you running? What lap time were you running? And I chased that a little bit too when I first got into it. But I think the best thing that anyone getting into it is honestly just go in, drive the car, don't even care what your times are, get around the track and focus on being aware of your surroundings and just being aware of the track. And once you have that awareness, everything else just starts to come with more experience. So I would just say that make sure that when you go into it, focus on the correct things.
Yeah. That's pretty good because if you're focused on lap times, that's really an output variable, and it doesn't really, I mean, it kind of measures your inputs, but it very indirectly, you know. So it's a good plan. I like that plan. So you've been doing this 2 years now, so you're still relatively early in your career, although progressing quite quickly. Traditional podcast etiquette requires us to ask the good, bad, and the ugly. So as far as you've gone, what would you say that you've done that was good to do, or things that went well? What was bad, or things that somebody shouldn't do? And do you have any ugly stories? I think we're good.
That's a really hard question, to be honest. The problem is that I go through experiences in life and I just feel that they're my experiences. So I don't like have a way to judge the level of the experiences. Like, I'm one of those people that I don't really get super excited about things or make a big deal out of things. So to like start rating experiences for me is quite difficult. But I would definitely say one of my biggest accomplishments that I've had in 2 years was my race 2 weeks ago at Lime Rock. Just getting back into racing after an ugly experience that I had early in May. Just kind of getting back out there as quickly as I could and having a smooth weekend, reorienting and refocusing myself for the priorities that I felt mattered most that weekend.
Right.
As far as bad, I have been incredibly lucky in my last 2 years where I've pretty much gone to an event, I've unloaded my car, I've ran what I've wanted that weekend, I've loaded up and I've gone home. It's been a very relatively uneventful 2 years for me. And I don't know if it's just the car itself, but I've never had any issues with reliability. I've never really had any incidents with people or things on the track. So it's,
right.
I consider myself very lucky.
Well, I mean, you've done well. And, from the first time I ever drove on track with you, I was like, okay, there's a solid driver. I can definitely play with him on the race course, at least while he waits for me. And then, I just watch you and wave for you as you go by, but that's okay. So part of the reason that we kind of had two reasons to bring you on, Ryan, and we talked about it earlier, was how you've transitioned, because you originally started fairly new, car guy, but you hadn't done the high performance driving. You started in HPDE, but you've graduated and transitioned from high performance driving events to where you went to comp school to where you're now racing wheel to wheel at a fairly high level. And we were going to start talking to you about that. And then we're going to start going over returning to the track. So when we were back in HPDE2, I think the first time I met you was at Mid Ohio, although it sounds like we were in pit race together, but I don't remember that we ever played on track together. So I do remember you with your Miata there. What were the big steps that you learned going from HPDE 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to eventually into comp school? Was there any big steps, or was it kind of a bunch of gradual, you almost don't realize you're getting better kind of thing?
No, there were definitely milestones. Like HPDE 1 and HPDE 2, I think I was very mild in those events. I was very cautious on track. I was the traditional brake in a straight line, coast to the corner, back to throttle, like no real like trying to do anything that I felt that I wasn't ready for. I really kind of stayed within my own boundaries. It wasn't really until HPDE 3 that when I got together with Robin and the guys there that it was kind of one of those things that I moved quite quickly through 1 and 2, and I kind of branched a couple of different regions. But when I got into 3, I ran 5 HPDE 3 events, all with Robin, all with NASA Great Lakes guys. So after the first event, I knew who was on the track with me. I knew Robin, I knew his drills, and a level of comfortability and just being at ease on the track started to develop that helped me push a lot harder in HPDE 3. Unfortunately, I do wish that I spent a little bit more time in HPDE 4. I was only in HPDE 4 for 1 session, and then I was recommended to take comp school because of the scheduling conflict. So I do kind of wish I had a little bit more time there to play, but ultimately I think I was ready. It's one of those things that if it was up to me, I might still be in DE4 every once in a while. I play it safe a lot of the times where I know I'm ready, but I need someone to help push me there. Mm-hmm. And I got that push, and that's what got me to comp school. But for me personally, it was really the HPDE 3 where I saw the most advancement out of my performance and out of my driving ability, purely because I felt finally aware and calm and comfortable on the track.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. as much as we try, and as much as, every time I'm on track, I try to do my best to get, it's definitely not a straight linear, I'm getting better at some rate. It's a whole bunch of steps. It's not like a straight, like better. I'm good to go. So I
Can
agree.
you
And
share some of your aha moments, Ryan?
Some of my aha moments were some of my best learning experiences, and I think everyone should do this, is going out on wet tracks. When I was in DE3 or even DE4, or even like my last 2 race weekends, like I always sign up for the practice days, and especially this last weekend at Lime Rock, and we had Mid-Ohio here in April. The progression I saw out of my driving ability was driving a wet track first, because one, a lot of people in DE, when the track gets that wet, specifically at Mid-Ohio, a lot of the DE drivers, they might skip that session because they don't want to go out in the rain. So one, there's less traffic, but two, that's where you finally start learning your car control at the limits, and you're going a lot slower, but the car is a lot slicker. So you can manage the car a lot easier, and you have to be quick and you have to have reaction. And then when you get back to dry driving, you're able to know what that feeling is going faster. So for me, a lot of my aha moments came after driving on a dry track after I drove on it wet.
Jen experienced that at Mid-Ohio the last time we were out there. She started off at Mid-Ohio wet and was hating life, and then it got a little dry, and she realized, hey, that wasn't so bad. I like this place.
Yep. Yeah, it's not a good wet track.
Oh, I think it's the best wet track.
I think that was Jennifer's first time at the facility, so she was warned that it was going to be ugly. So I think she went in there thinking it was worse than it was going to be, but it worked out. She had a great time.
Yeah.
Is there anything part of it that you found easier? And what did you find harder than anticipated?
The hardest thing that I'm still working on is car balance. Because the car that I have is a dedicated track car, it's the only vehicle that I own that is a manual transmission. And my heel toe is probably the worst that I have ever seen in my entire life. And I band-aid it with overbraking, but that is the biggest troubling factor, the biggest hurdle that I'm currently working on.
Okay. How about easier?
Easier, I
What did you
found
pick
trail
up
braking to be very easy.
Okay.
Something about it, I don't know if it was the car, it was about, I just found it, I did it once. And it was one of those things that when I was in HPDE3, everyone started talking about trail braking. What is it? Why do you do it? And everyone was talking about it. And it was before I read any of, the Speed Secret books. It was before I really got into a lot of the literature and the reading and understanding of things. And everyone's trying to explain this, technique to me. And I'm like, I don't get it. But then I actually found it at Mid-Ohio, turning the right-hander into China Beach. All of a sudden, one session I went out there and it was just beautiful, and I've got it. And it was one of the easiest things for me to get up to speed on.
Mm-hmm.
Vicki hates that turn. She it's her nemesis. I think she did 2 360s in one incident last time we were there. But
Right.
So you're one of the few people that have talked about, reading Speed Secrets and doing the reading. What did you find that was helpful, like, sources, and then how was it helpful to you?
Well, and a lot of that, I attribute that to the Great Lakes region. When you get into the HPDE3, DE4, Great Lakes has all those tests that you have to take the test to pass, and they're all based on the Speed Secrets book. And it's just, yes, you walk around the track and you talk to everyone, especially the new drivers. I'm in DE1, I'm in DE2, and you're listening to drivers that have been there just as much as you, but they're talking about things that you don't understand, but everyone talks about it with such confidence because they're confident in it that you just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's what I should be doing. It just really kind of wrung out all the things that I heard or all the perceptions that I had, or basically everything that I thought I was doing right that I then found out the book's telling me, it just reshifted my entire focus point on driving.
Any examples that you may have had misplaced thoughts about that were changed?
I was always the driver. I went out there, and I struggled with my coaches on this forever, that it was either you're on the gas or you're on the brake. If your foot's not on either pedal, you're wasting time. That was my belief. And then I was always a believer that if I can brake a little later, the later I brake, the faster I'll be. Like a lot of those, I went into there, and that's that they were in my mindset. And eventually I reset everything. And now I know I don't push my braking because more mid-corner speed, or coasting's fine because you got to balance the car, but you can get back to throttle sooner. And it's just all of those things that I thought I was doing right. It really helped me realize that I need to take a step back and listen to what's being taught.
Can you share any plateaus that you've had to work through?
I currently haven't reached many plateaus. I don't think that are based on the car. I've gotten stuck in some places, but I'm very quickly to adapt, where if I go out for 1 or 2 sessions and I'm trying to do something and the same thing's happening every time, I'll take a session and I'll just drive a completely different line, or I'll just drive something completely abnormal from what I was thinking. I'll take it up to 4th gear instead of 3rd, so I'm taking the shift out and see if that works a little bit better. I'm very quick that if it doesn't feel right, I change something. So I'm able to adapt very quickly in that manner. So I don't think I've reached any yet, specifically in my short time of driving. And when I go back, I look at all my data, I look at my videos. But it's also hard to tell too, though, because I do take such large gaps going back to the same track. For instance, I was in Lime Rock this last weekend, and all I had to compare was my data at Lime Rock last year, and it was quick to see massive progression there. So it's hard for me to say where I'm plateauing yet, because I don't have a consistent set of tracks that I go to kind of find out. As far as driver skill, I think that I need to really start focusing a lot more on car balance. That if for some reason it's one of those things that when I get in the car, it's not my main focus point. And then when I have everything else surrounding me, it sometimes does kind of go on the window. So I don't know if it's a plateau, but I think it's my biggest current challenge.
Okay. What are the biggest differences between the HPDE groups and the comm school?
Everything.
Everything.
It's one of those things that, yeah, I don't know why. I went to comm school. It was 6 weeks ago from this last weekend, and I have never felt more overwhelmed, honestly, in my entire life.
Really?
But I will also take that with a grain of salt, because I had a large scheduling conflict this year in May and June. I was not able to go to the NASA Great Lakes Comm School. So I had to go to an out of region NASA, which I don't normally visit. So I don't know anyone there. I also had to go to a new track that I've never been to. And it was my first real race of the season with the car since I made some pretty decent changes to it last season. So I had all of those in my back pocket, my mind, that I was thinking about all weekend long, and then now go out and be proficient through comp school. So it was the most mentally exhausting track experience I've ever been to.
Wow. And then what about the comp school versus wheel to wheel?
Funny enough, my last weekend at Lime Rock, it was a track that I've been to. It was an organization I've been with. It was drivers that I know. It was a car that I'm now familiar with, and it was one of the easiest weekends I've ever had.
Wow.
I will say that your focus points change drastically. Like when I was in HPDE1, I would go out, I would do my session, I would park my car, and I would sit around and wait for the next one. This time, after each session, once you get into the wheel to wheel, you're looking at the car I look at my data immediately when I shut down. I look at my tire temperatures, my tire pressures, I look at my tire wear, and then I go to my Apex Pro data and I look at my min speeds, my max speeds, my lat, my long G's in each corner. And I look at all of that before I even sit down and take a break. I've also gotten a lot more methodical with how I visit these tracks now, that within the first 30 minutes that I'm off track, I grab a map of that track and I start writing notes every corner. What was I doing there during the session? What was I seeing? And then at the end of the day, I'll compare my notes from each session on the track map to see how I was progressing. I took a large step and large investment in myself this year in hiring a couple of different private coaches, and we're all just kind of working with me to work up to a way that I can learn and function and change. So it's just, now that I'm into this, it is a lot more physically demanding in the car. You're in there for a lot longer, 40 minutes instead of 20. But then when you go park the car, like, you're not done yet. You keep going.
So you mentioned coaches. Are they at the track with you? Or are they remote, or how is that working for you?
I've worked with 3 coaches so far this year. One of them is from NASA Great Lakes, and if I'm at an event on a Friday, I work with him all day. 2 of my other coaches, I've gone down to see them at their home tracks, and I'll rent a car for the day, so we'll get C10 together. One of them I'm actually bringing to an event with me next month at Mid-Ohio, so he's going to spend the weekend with me in my car. And then we also do remote data review for all the events that they can't go to with me.
Kind of cool. That seems awesome.
As far as I saw, you drove the same car throughout each of the types of racing that you've done. What are the pros and cons to that, in your opinion?
It helps comfortability. I know that when I go to my pit race this weekend, my car is going to feel the same. It's going to drive the same. It's going to react the same that it did at Landmark for the most part. Not, I can set up the ergonomics of the car so the seat is positioned just for me. The harnesses are for me. The steering wheel is at the right angle. Everything was built around me. And for all intents and purposes, I'm a rather large guy. I'm 250 pounds in a Miata. So comfortability in that build was one of the top priorities.
Yeah, because Robin's always making fun of me because I'm always bringing different cars. He's like, "Can you just pick one?" I'm like, "But I want to know how to drive everything." We'll get there.
That is actually one thing that's on my to-do list, is that I've gotten so much time in this car that I need to make it a focus to rent more cars. I need to get into a front-wheel drive car, an all-wheel drive car, because you learn differently. They all drive differently, but they kind of help each other out if you know it and understand it. So I will say that it's a good and bad that I'm 100% comfortable in this car, and there's not anywhere that I can put it on the track that I don't feel uncomfortable, because I trust the car and myself, but I need to branch out to different platforms and get that experience. So there's benefits to both.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're going to open up a subject just a little bit. You kind of came into everybody's atmosphere after being involved with a particular accident at NJMP. It was kind of horrific. And my curiosity about the whole thing was, after the severity of the incident, how were you getting back into the car after that?
It was difficult. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to say it wasn't. It was hard. It was the worst track day of my life. It was the worst track weekend I've ever had, even before that incident, because of other compounding factors. But I had a 7-hour drive home with my car in the trailer, and it was just 7 hours of me just thinking on the way home.
Right.
And I came to the realization that I'm either going to set a goal for myself, and I'm going to set a timetable that, one, I can achieve, but one is in this season, this year. And I'm either going to get back out on the track, and if I don't do that, I probably wouldn't have came back.
Mhm.
Now, the reason is that Jennifer on our team has been in two incidences on the track, and they were not nearly as terrible as the one particular one that you were involved in. And Jennifer, if I have this correct, still has hesitation, and I feel that it kind of she's more cautious in the vehicle because of it. And that these are some of the questions why I had asked you. What did you need to replace and repair the car?
My car, again, I got incredibly lucky. It was just, I don't know if it was just where I was, how the incident unfolded, but it was luck. There was no skill involved whatsoever. It was 100% luck.
Okay.
My car, it was very similar. The car fared pretty well, all things considered. It could have been 100 times worse. I ended up with a bumper, door, fender, windshield, hood, and a rear trunk lid. All had to get replaced. So
the frame was
for all intents
okay.
and purposes, the car was straight. The frame was straight. It was purely cosmetic damage, just crumpled body panels. And I cracked a wheel and a radiator. But again, the car was straight, and that's why. And that's why when going into it, it was really like, because, it's just getting some body panels, just putting things back on, where if the frame was any damage or anything like that, it would have taken a lot longer to get back up and running. And that would have played with me mentally too. But because I was able to get the car repaired and back up and running, that was, a lot too for my mental, preparation of getting back into racing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it looked worse because I didn't realize it was you until I saw the car on the hook getting pulled through the paddock, and I was like, oh. And then I tried finding you, and by the time I figured out it was you, I was like, oh. And you were. I never found you that day, but we checked on you, and indirectly through people we both know. As far as the new livery goes, I really like the old one, but the new one's awesome. But I can't tell if in the pictures you can actually see the numbers. Is that just a camera thing, or are the numbers pretty clear?
I don't actually know because I'm not outside the car when it's moving. But true, I did notice that I have seen a couple of pictures from cell phones, and they don't come out as good as I wanted them to. But I'm waiting for the pictures to come up from Lime Rock last weekend for the photographer that NASA Northeast uses to see how they turn out. Right. I do know though that talking to the guys in race control and talking to them, they didn't have any issues identifying my car or reading my numbers from race control. But it's definitely not as clear as I thought it was going to be, but I still like it.
Oh, it's awesome. I can't decide which one I like better. I like the old one too, but the new one's got something for it. So I think that's.
I actually prefer the old one. Personally, I prefer the old one, but it was one of those things that I don't think this is going to be the last time that my car is going to have body damage. No, and instead of having to worry about replacing panels and then matching paint, I was like, I'll just wrap it. And that way, if I ever have to replace anything, I can just wrap the panels, throw it on. And it just came down to, it would just be cheaper to repair. Is the reason why I wrapped it.
Did you wrap it personally, or did you have somebody wrap it for you? Or?
Nope, I had someone, a local company. They actually did the old livery over the paint. It was the same company. Now they just did the color wrap, and then they threw the same livery on top, except for I've got 2 new names on the car for sponsorships I got.
Nice. That's awesome. So after the accident, how were you physically?
Physically, I'm fine. Mentally, it's a lot to deal with. I still deal with it every day.
Yeah, it was definitely one that you're going to remember, and it was weird. I'm nothing compared to what you went through, but I'm pulling back onto the track from the main entrance, and I look over, and I see a red car and your car, and I think your car was hidden, but I see the red car and it looks just like Chris's car from Great Lakes. And I have this like, oh my God, I got to go find Chris's wife because I know, who she is. And I raced with her in HPDs. And then I'm like, oh, wait, it's not. And then I saw your car and I was like, oh my goodness, this is horrible. But it was one of those, didn't plan on seeing that right after lunch. And, I was hoping everybody was okay. But
did you end up having any emergency work come to check you out?
Yeah, part of the protocol there with that incident was me and the people that were involved in even dealing with the scene and all the safety people. We all had to go through and get checked out by the medical coordinator at the facility.
Mm-hmm. So, how long did it take for you to pull your car back together?
It took 43 days from the day of the incident.
Okay. Were you on a timeline?
24 hours sooner than I had planned because, I signed up and I registered for Lime Rock this last weekend,
Mm-hmm.
which was it was the weekend before this last one. It was the Friday, Saturday, July 9th, July 10th.
Mm-hmm.
And I got the last part for my car and had it thrown on July 7th and loaded in the trailer. So I was one day early.
So how many races did you have to sacrifice in between that time?
I lost 2 events.
Okay.
so
But I just knew that feasibly it was going to be impossible for me to make those events. So I just, there's nothing that could have been done. So I set a realistic timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess returning to the track is, it's kind of like, the old saying is you got to get on the horse again. But how was it getting on the horse again? Did it feel different? Did it feel weird? Did it ever feel normal again or so far?
I went into that weekend with a lot more mental preparation. I was analyzing a lot. I was analyzing the cars in the field, who was there, where I was at. It was great that I was going back to a track that I went back to Lime Rock, which is the track that I probably am the most comfortable running, is Lime Rock. I have a ton of laps there and I'm just incredibly comfortable with that track. So that helped my confidence a lot. It was a little bit of an issue that we dealt with weather all weekend. But it was an issue in the good way, though, that I was constantly switching my car back from wet and dry setups and constantly working on the car, that there was really no time to think about much. You were always busy doing something, and then it was time to grid, then it was time to race. So it really took a lot of my back of my head lingering thoughts and just completely overlapped them, which let me go out in a really refreshed mental state. So it was bad I had to deal with weather, but it was good that I wasn't just sitting around between races waiting for the next one, because that would have been, I think, mentally worse.
So you were occupied distraction, I guess.
Yes.
It's not a bad thing. So towards the end of the weekend, towards the end of the event, did you start feeling like yourself on track again, or it's still some stuff to work through?
I felt comfortable, I felt aware, and I felt safe. But I do not have the same aggressive and assertiveness in my driving. Specifically when it comes to racing. I still ran, personal best times that I've never had before. I was still pushing the car as hard as I could. But as far as being competitive wheel to wheel, I wasn't defending. If there was a car that I was racing against and he wanted to put his nose in for that corner, I gave it to him.
What do you think about that? Is that something to work on, or is that something that's gone, or is that something that you're, it's just going to take some time?
I think for me, it'll take time. I know that it's still there because I'm able to recognize it, and I was able to recognize and be aware every time. Every time I saw him come over, I saw that he was there. I knew what I had to do to get him to stop, but I was more worried about just honestly running clean laps. I didn't want to put a wheel into his door. I didn't want a wheel into my door. I wanted clean laps. I wanted a clean event. I wanted a clean slate. And it's something that I'm just going to slowly work back into. As I get to, it's hard too, because that was only my second event racing too. And I don't know the racing guys like I know my guys from HPDE3. You know, like
Right.
I knew every guy there, and I knew how close I could be. I knew if he was aware of me. I knew
Right.
if he was an aggressive driver. You know, and the race guys, I just don't have enough experience with them to know the types of personalities of the person on the track with me. And once I learn that, I think I'll be able to be a lot more assertive in how I race with them.
Yeah. I mean, you almost form a pack with your HPD class, let's call it.
Mhm.
You know, you know them, you know who does what and how fast they are and how slow they are and where they're strong, where they're weak, and how close you guys can get together. And it's pretty awesome. I mean, I do admit.
So Jennifer, is this relatable?
Yes.
How are you doing, Jen? Are you coming back still?
Yeah. I'm doing good. I'm better. It's better. Yeah.
Better than it was.
Better than it was. But
Kicking and
so
screaming.
Ryan, huh?
Kicking and screaming, we're going to get you back there.
Yeah. So Ryan, do you have any plans for this coming race season or off season?
This off season, I'm going to be revamping my setup a little bit. Like I said, I'm going to be getting a specified trailer specifically for racing. And actually, one of the biggest things that I learned coming away from this incident was I'm going to look at acquiring a much larger spare part bin. I really have minimal parts for my car, to be honest with you, because I've never had an incident where I broke anything, and I don't know what breaks yet.
Mhm.
So I really need to make a much better list of what I can replace easily and what's the best items to have. But also, I'm going to look into getting a spare car for myself too, just so I don't turn the same downtime, so I can get back into things. You know, God forbid something like this happens again, or even if it's something minor with my car, but it's going to take 2 or 3 weeks to get parts. I just don't want to have that opportunity where I'm missing a race or I'm missing a weekend or not being able to get back into it mentally again.
Well, I mean, if we've got a few Miatas and we've raced them pretty routinely, so if we can help you with working on your spare list, we're more than willing to share. So
Mhm.
anything we can do to help. So go ahead, Vic.
All right. So is it time?
It is time.
It is time. We haven't done this in a little bit. But you seem like you're primed already. So we're going to introduce you to the Fast and Furious Storytime questions to get to know you just a tiny bit more. So they're more so rapid fire, but things that usually just kind of pop off the top of your head, which is always good. And Jennifer's going to
Okay.
kick us off.
Okay. So Ryan, what was your very first car and what was the worst car you've ever had?
First car was a 1999 Blazer 2-door.
My, how far you've come.
That's so close to a Miata. It's right.
Oh,
It's just one page
my
away.
girlfriend's mom had it when I was in high school, and I thought it was the coolest car on the road. Anyways, the worst car that I've ever owned. When I was in college, I decided I didn't really want to care about fixing up cars anymore, so I bought a 25-year-old Chevy Silverado that I could drive into the ground. And man, it was in the ground.
Yeah. When you were done, that was it.
Yep.
Sucked all the life right out of it.
That's right. So what is the one thing nobody knows about you that would surprise them? Or very few people know about you that would surprise them?
It's more the surprise than the number of people.
Yeah.
That don't know about me.
Any hidden talents?
People that once they get to know me, they realize that I know a lot of things. I feel like I'm one of those persons that I'm no expert in anything, but I know a decent amount about everything.
Okay.
So,
and specifically, I love my hobbies. I love learning. Like before I came to this, I was a skydiver, and then I went and left that, and then I became a private pilot, and then I came and did this. So I'm always trying to expand my knowledge base with skills.
So are you more the Jeopardy guy, or are you more the fountain of useless information?
I'm a fountain of useless information until we need that information to fix something.
That's good. I like that.
I have a totally different fountain because I am not the one who's going to fix anything.
My kids come to me all day long with toys that they've broken, and I have to fix all of them. Everyone wants me to fix something.
So our next question is, what is the car from your family that sticks out in your mind?
In my family, that sticks out.
Yeah.
When you were growing
You were
up,
growing up.
it doesn't have to be your parents
Oh,
either.
my father. It is my father had this one of the old Lincoln Town cars with the old cell phone in the trunk, center console. And I mean, I say old, but keep in mind, I'm only 32. So for me,
Yeah.
it was old.
Yeah.
He put that car. The reason why everyone knew about the car is because he would put it in ditches constantly.
How would he do that?
He was on the phone.
Oh.
I do not attribute my driving skill to my bloodline.
That's probably a good plan. So there's this podcast out there. It's with Spike Ferenston, hopefully future podcast guest. He's been on our list forever, and I'm going to get him someday. But he has this concept of there's a taproot car that got you into cars. It's the car that, it could be a Hot Wheels car. It could be a model you put together as a kid. It could be, your neighbor's girlfriend's car. It could be whatever. What is the thing that we can blame for all the money we're wasting on cars? What is that car for you?
It is a 2004 Mazda RX-8.
Wow. That's a pretty good taproot car if you're going
You
to have
just
one.
saw it and you loved it?
One of my only regrets in life was I sold that car, and looking back on it, I didn't need to.
So our next question would be, what's that one car that got away?
I think we figured that one out.
Yeah, it's gonna be that car. I spent more hours with that car. I was 18 at the time. I had the entire thing apart. It was actually to the point where my parents were yelling at me because I was cleaning parts from it in the dishwasher in the kitchen.
Oh man, that's
It's a parts washer, right?
Yeah, I thought it was the same thing.
It's almost the same.
So, you're driving. Is it automatic stick paddles, or you just don't care?
It depends. My daily drivers are all automatic. My track car is a manual only because I picked a Miata for its purposes, and it just so happened it came with a manual. But if I were to go with something like a Porsche Cayman or something a little bit better, I would take the paddle shifters if it was available, even for a track car, because it's going to be faster and better than me. So I really don't have a preference.
Interesting.
So, Ryan, do your cars have names?
So where did that question
They
come
do
from?
not have names, no. But I am known, and I don't know why. It was a couple of years ago. I was buying a new car. It was like 5-6 years ago. And I was talking to some buddies of mine who do car washing. And they talked me into getting a white car because apparently it's the car that's easiest to maintain, can't see the chips. So now every car that I own has always been white. So I am known for always having white cars. Except now I have a purple Miata.
You call them Snowflake? Snowball?
So,
Did you ever have a favorite race driver? Maybe when you were growing up, or maybe now? Could be.
funny enough, it was Jeff Gordon, but I never watched him or knew anything about him. I just liked that his car number was 24.
Ah, no worries.
So do you like your front wheel, rear wheel, or four-wheel drives, or does that matter?
If I were to pick a car, it would always be rear-wheel drive.
They're fun.
But I would love to have. I mean, for a race car, my car that I drive every day is an all-wheel drive car. Front-wheel drive cars, I would love to drive one on a track, but I don't necessarily like them.
It's another skill.
Okay, our next question is, what area or areas of driving and or racing are you working on this season or off season?
I still think I'm the limiting factor in my car. So I need skill development, and that's what I'm aiming towards. And me and my coaches, we break it up into very small bites. I'll be going to pit race this week. I've got 3 things I need to work on, and that's all I'm going to focus on that week.
Well, you can't leave that dangling out there without me saying, well, what are they, Brian?
The biggest thing for me is I'm currently focusing on making my turn-in points a little bit sooner, because the whole concept is turn in as soon as possible until you start to jeopardize your exit, and then that's the perfect turn-in. It also lets you get back the throttle a little bit faster. So I'm trying to manage my turn-ins a little bit earlier. I'm trying to softer on the brakes. Like I've been harping on me whenever it says brush brakes, I give a lot more than a brush. I need to work on that. And then area number 3 is the good old fashioned heel toe, which I don't think I'm ever going to get there, but I'm going to keep working.
Well, you can brush those brakes at pit race quite a lot. There's a few places you can do that, so you should get lots of practice. That'd be fun.
So one of our big questions is a big curiosity is, what is the fastest you've ever driven, and what car and where? I don't particularly clock it. What's that? Nobody listens.
I have gone.
Nobody will hear it.
I have gone 186 miles an hour.
Ooh.
Wow, you're getting towards the top of the list, buddy.
What were you in?
Is the statute of limitations up, or do we need to make up a place like Mexico?
I was in a 2016 Mercedes AMG C63S, and yes, I was in Mexico. Mexico
sounds good.
Yeah.
Mexico is getting a lot of business from this podcast. That's all I'm saying. Why don't we ever go to Canada? Too much snow? I don't know. All right, so
I can't get there.
I guess. Well, you're pretty close. You just hop, skip, and a jump from you. So we have this thing. We like giving back. We started the podcast to get back to our sport. You know, we since we bother people to come on our podcast, we thought it'd be nice, you know, once we win the lottery to get a desert island and build a racetrack on it and invite all our friends and former guests to come on. So since you're a guest, we like to entertain our guests very well. So since we have this track, and it's a nice road track, and then we have a dirt track, and you know, some people want an autocross track. We've got everything for you once we win this lottery. But we want to make sure we have the right cars for you. So what would be the 5 cars that we need to have ready for you when you arrive at our desert island?
All right. Is it any 5 cars that I just always wanted to drive, or 5 cars I want to drive on a track?
I've got 5 cars for you, buddy. Whatever you want. We've got roads. We've got tracks. We've got Jennifer's 5th car was a taco truck. I mean, you can do anything you want.
All right. I would love to drive a GT3 Cayman.
Okay.
I would love to one of the is it 2019 ACR Vipers.
Okay. Those are about as opposite as you're going to get, but okay.
I know it's super weird. I would love to drive one of the new GTR Black Series AMGs.
Mm-hmm.
I would honestly love to also drive an Alpha 4C. Something about that car I just really like.
It's so pretty. Did you see the new Lotus they're coming out with? It's almost the same.
Yeah, but it's a lot more expensive.
I don't think so. I think the estimate on it was like 80. It wasn't too bad. It starts with E. I don't remember.
Like 56.
Is it?
Yeah.
I know somebody who drove one.
Especially used. They pay you to take them.
Yeah, I guess used. I had a friend who had one, and he said it was a really good car up to about 0.8, and then it lost it. It just fell on its face if you pushed it. So.
I can see that. I almost bought one of the new GT500 Mustangs, so I would like to drive one of those. And where am I at? 4 or 5?
Well, let's assume you have one more.
All right. I still
because the Alpha is not going to work. So.
I'd say you have to have an ND Miata.
Oh, very nice.
Mhm.
I think
There
we
you
had one
go.
guest who wanted to have 5 spec Miatas and just play with their friends.
Yeah, was it John Allen?
No, I don't think he's been on yet. I'm trying to get him. We are like 2 ships passing in the night, but he's coming.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
So,
give up.
okay. What would be your dream car to start a build from?
Specifically for track, I would love to move to a Cayman. I just think they're a great platform to build into a track car.
I think so. I agree on that one.
But I wouldn't want to pay for the consumables, so I'll never do it.
Yeah, there's that.
Miata does start a bad precedent for driving a Porsche. So,
Yep.
So what was your most memorable car breakdown on the road or track?
It was embarrassing, but it was on the road, and I ran out of gas.
those are frustrating. You know what I found out though? I'm one of those guys who likes to drive like the full tank. So I found out in my I had a M240i, and I found out that when the German car says 0 miles, it turned itself off. It was not joking around. It was not like, oh yeah, you should have been here, I'll give you another 20 miles. No, it turned itself off, and I coasted into the gas station. I was like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. But anyway.
So for the rest of your life, if you could daily drive and race cars from one decade, what decade would you choose?
Any 10-year period. Doesn't have to be like 60s.
Oh, in the past.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't have a preference.
No.
I mean, the problem is that if I had to, I'd probably pick this decade, because this decade, the cars are all faster than the previous decade. So
True.
I'd probably just want the most competitive car available. So I'd probably just pick today.
Cool.
I'm not very nostalgic.
Well, that's okay.
He wants results.
That's right. That's right.
That is true.
Well, he's got stuff to do. He's got this list he's got to work through, Vic.
That's right.
All right. No one else will ask this, Ryan, so the girls always make me do it. Jeremy, Hammond, May, Chris, Matt, other?
I like Hammond.
Hamster. Okay. Sometimes it's really fun to have people go, who? That's a perfect answer for that question too. But it's always
I always liked him the most.
I'm not sure I drive with him, but he's a pretty good guy.
Oh, never. I'll have May drive me.
Exactly.
So what is
we'll
your
never get anywhere fast?
No, not at all.
What is your most memorable great stories from the first few times from autocrossing, racing, or on track?
Anything stick out?
The event that always sticks out the most for me was Autobahn last year in August. And there was really, I don't necessarily know if it was anything that I did, but I went out on the Sunday morning. It was a colder night. It was 40s. And there was a lot of dew on the track, and it was just wet. And I just drove great those first 2 sessions. Like everything was on. I wasn't sliding all over the pace. It just seemed like everyone else that was out there was really struggling to get around the track. And for me, it just really felt effortless. And that was probably one of the best sessions I've been a part of. Yeah,
that Sunday was a little tricky. It did get a little slippery, but it wasn't terrible. It wasn't Mid Ohio like, but it was tricky.
So where would your ultimate road trip be from and to, and in what car?
I would go to Alaska.
Oh, it's been a long time
and
since
I'd
we had
probably drive
Alaska.
my truck.
Is it that the one you started with when you first started driving, or are you gonna upgrade?
No, my current truck, I got an F-350 that I use to tow and do everything with. I love that truck,
Yeah.
and I'd drive it to Alaska.
That'd be fun.
The wife wouldn't go with me though, so it'd be a lonely trip, but that's okay.
You can pick up a snowman on the way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Jen's favorite question.
It is one of my favorite questions. So, what is your favorite car movie or car from a movie of all time?
I love Gone in 60 Seconds.
Really? We've had a lot of those, actually.
It was a good movie.
In little cars.
No,
Oh, okay.
different movie.
All right.
You're thinking the Italian Job.
Okay. Go ahead, Bill. You ask this one.
Okay, Ryan, we're scouting. So what's your favorite backcountry road or drive that you're aware of? So if we're in an area, we know which road to take. Anything stick out, or are you unwilling to share?
Not particularly. I don't really drive backcountry roads because I hate rocks.
That, and you have an F-350 most of the time, right?
Yeah, I mean, most of my driving all of the driving that I do is pretty much highway. I really do not get down back roads, and being in Western New York, we really don't have great scenic roads. It's mostly just potholes and snow.
Yeah.
Mhm. So, what car would you love to switch into that you're currently racing against or raced against in the past?
I've been telling everyone for the last year that when I have an incident with my current car that makes it beyond repair, unless something else comes along that wants me to get into it first, I want to go to Thunder Roadsters.
Those look like fun.
Well,
Mhm.
they're cheap, and they are some of the fastest cars at the track every weekend.
Mhm.
Never seen anybody get out of one that wasn't smiling.
Yeah.
So, what car, if any, would you wipe away from history?
You could choose Vicky's answer and say none.
There's no real car that I hate. I mean, I think the DeLorean was a useless car, but we use it a ton for movies and jokes and everything nowadays. But,
And jokes.
I don't think the car served any type of purpose when it was being made, though, so it was kind of a useless endeavor.
Great for Halloween parties now, though.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, do you have any like favorite go-to order or place to order it near a track? I got hungry when I wrote this question. I can't help it.
God.
Vicky
Oh,
hates this question.
I don't know why. I don't search for it, but every racetrack I go to, I normally just find a Subway, and they're always close.
They are. You know, I will say for this weekend, the barbecue place, the truck there at Pit Race, it's quite nice. Worth a trip.
Mhm.
That is true. But also, though, if you're going to make the trip, NCM at the end of the year, they've got some of the best food trucks that come into that paddock.
Yeah. Yeah. I went there one, was it last year I went there? Yeah.
So, in your opinion, how much of racing and driving is learned and how much is natural skill?
You can learn things up to a point, I believe.
Mhm.
It really depends on the person. It depends on the mindset.
Mhm.
Like, I believe everyone can learn almost anything, but you actually have to be a person who's able to turn what you learn into doing. And that's where a lot of people struggle.
Mhm.
And for me, I mean, I don't think I'm a great driver. I've got a book 800 pages long of stuff that I still need to learn. I know enough to know that I know nothing.
Mhm.
But just being able to be out there and be confident and just put down your best is really just kind of how I go out every session. You know, I'm only going to be able to do what I can do. There's always going to be someone faster, someone better, someone smarter, someone with more money, someone with less money that's going to beat me. And all I can do is just go out and be the best that I possibly can be and focus on myself every race.
Good answer.
Good way to go.
So what is your favorite track so far and your favorite turn?
Right now, Lime Rock is my favorite track.
Why Lime Rock?
And I love it because of comfortability. It is the track that I have turned more laps than any other track. So that's the reason why I like it, because I am 100% comfortable. I know it very well. Also, the same with Mid-Ohio is my second most comfortable track because it's the second track I've turned the most laps on.
Mm-hmm.
But also, so it's just, that's what makes it my favorite track. But also, that's kind of crutching it too, because I know that the tracks that I struggle with, which is specifically Pit Race, is one of my worst tracks.
Really?
I need to focus more on those.
Pit Race is my favorite track.
I don't know. Pit Race, I've never been able to get a good flow around Pit Race, specifically after the uphill on turn 6. It just kind of, it just kind of doesn't flow for me. Really? I go to NCM. I went there the first time, 23 turns. But after like one day, it felt like a good rhythm. Pit Race, I just can't get into a good rhythm with the track.
Are you going to do the track walk Friday night?
I am signed up for Test and Tune Friday, Trek Race Friday night, and racing Saturday and Sunday because it's one of my worst tracks. So I'm going to make sure I can get the most time I possibly can on it.
Well, there's a track walk. I think it's at 6 or 6:30. We'll definitely go with you if you want to.
It is at 6:30, and for people that do not know, Ross Bentley will be hosting it.
He will. Yep.
Yep. I just saw the news from Eric this morning.
Yep. We will be there. It's going to be like 7,000 people standing around Ross Bentley walking down the track.
Right.
That's
We're
pretty
gonna be
much
like
how
all the
I
way in the
picture
back.
Yeah.
It'll be I hope he carries a loud microphone.
I think he's bringing a bullhorn actually, so it'll be fun.
That would be very interesting.
It will.
So Ryan, what are you currently working on for the upcoming race season? The remainder.
For this season, it's just getting as much seat time as I can. It's specifically now that I'm going to win only Great Lakes events for the next 4 races to finish out the year. It's really getting used to and getting comfortable with the people in my racing class.
Any thoughts about maybe coming back to HPDE one weekend?
I will do HPDE every Friday for Test and Tune. I'll be in HPDE 4 TT Fridays.
Oh, nice.
Mike Job.
Yep.
I'll be in DE4 this Friday at Pit Race before the truck race.
That's awesome. I'm going to my first HPDE4 with Mike this weekend, so it'll be fun.
You will love it.
I'm sure. He seems like a great guy. I'll miss Robin though. I miss everybody in 2 and 1 too. So all the instructors there are just fantastic. So can't complain.
I agree.
Vicky's on mute again.
Sorry about that. I had people in here with me. How can we keep in contact with you or follow you and your team?
Well, my team currently is myself.
Okay.
But I'm on Facebook. I really don't post anything except for stuff with my car because that's really the only thing that I care about right now. That's not true. I care about my family and everything, but that just seems to be the only thing I document. Otherwise, I do have a YouTube channel with a whopping 26 viewers, and I post all my videos from all my events on there. And I'm actually hoping to develop it more in the off season as I get into more of a specified trailer for the car, go through kind of more things that I do to get ready for the weekend, You know, how do I do my alignment? What do I look for in tires, my corner balance? How do I prep the car for events? I would like to get a lot more of that type of content up, just because I mean, I know that there's a million people that do it, but if I can just, you know, help, you know, 3 or 4 people that I've met, or people that have this car, or anything I could do to help anyone where I was, you know, that's the reason for it.
Hmm.
Sound like a perfect person to have a podcast, because that's the only reason we do this.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
That's right. Well, thank you, Ryan. We hope you had a good time. You know, you put up with our silly questions and seem to tolerate us, at least for a little bit. And we look forward to running into you at Pit Race this weekend. That should be great fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll see you this weekend. Look for the purple Mazda.
Yeah, I want to go see these numbers. I heard a rumor.
It's a good looking car.
It is a good looking car.
Well, thank you, Ryan. You have a great night.
Credit goes out. All right, you two guys.
No. Credit goes out to your wife, I mean, right? On the design?
Actually, credit goes out to my daughter for the car.
Wow.
Really?
We were at the vinyl store and we were picking out all the colors, and she said it had to be purple.
Wow.
Now, the real kicker on that was it took them 2 weeks to get it done. And then the day I brought the car home, she decided that purple used to be her favorite color when she was a kid, but now it's pink.
Oh.
I don't know. I'm thinking you in a pink car might be the way to go. Just saying.
Wow.
Give it time.
Yeah, I think you realize along as well as I do that we are not in control of this boat. We just paddle along, go
That's
where we
right.
gotta go.
That's right.
100%.
Exactly. All right, you have a great time, and we will keep watching for you. And we are one of the subscribers to your YouTube channel. So
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate the time.
no
Right.
problem. Thank you, Ryan.
Bye.
All right. Have a good night.